Welcome to Design, Material and Meaning, the podcast that explores the unique aura of design, fascinating materials, and the senses that elevate them. My name is Claire Chinellato, industrial and luxury product designer, creative director based in Corsica. Through this podcast, I invite businesses, entrepreneurs, creative souls, and designers to awaken your curiosity and discover exciting creations and topics. Together, let's look at the world through a new lens, the lens of global design. Let's get started. Design is more than just a profession for me. It's a philosophy, a way of life, a way to solve problems, and most importantly, a way to propose creative solutions and unique experiences. In our last episode, I shared with you a definition of design and why it can truly be a game changer for your projects. We covered 6 major advantages it brings: its holistic approach, its human-centeredness, its economic value, and much more. Today, we are going to step it up, because understanding what design is one thing, but integrating it in your project is another. It's 2025 and you likely have many ideas in mind for the new year. And if you're listening to me right now, you're probably wondering, how do I start? Where do I begin to collaborate with the designer and bring my ideas to life? Well, that's exactly what we will talk about today. In 3 major steps, I will walk you through concrete examples and provide a non-exhausting list of services that a designer can offer: improving communication, designing spaces, creating products, or even creating experiences. You'll be able to project yourself and see what's possible. By the end of this episode, you will have the tools to take action step by step. I will give you advice on finding the right designer for you, formalizing your ideas, and launching your project with an effective approach. Let's start this episode with the basics, defining the needs of your project. Before starting a project, it's essential to lay a solid foundation. A good collaboration with the designer always begins with a strategy reflection on your needs. The professional executing your project will rely heavily on this information to begin. I should mention, however, that you can start a project from scratch or rethink and develop an existing one with a professional. No worries there. I will touch on that a bit later. To define the needs of your project, the first step is understanding your vision and priorities. To do this, it's essential to ask yourself these questions, no matter how obvious they may seem. What problem or need are you looking to solve? Could you phrase it in one sentence as a question? What is the main goal of this project? Who is your target audience? Are there different users to consider? Be specific here. We are not generalizing, but really defining the spots. You can use the persona tool if you like. Last but not least, who is or will be the project owner? What is their availability? This is so crucial for the smooth running of the project because working with the designer involves exchanges. Indeed, it's rare for a designer to be a completely external and 100% independent executor, so be sure to set up some time with them. If you want to know how long the project will take or how often you will need to meet, just ask directly to your lead designer. Now that the basic questions are laid out, let me give you 4 typical scenarios from 4 different files where a designer might be called upon. For a communication-related project. You've had your company for a few years and you really want to update your visual identity. You've built a client base, but your branding doesn't reflect the positioning and pricing you offer. You want to make a stronger impact on your image and make your business more visible and understandable for both clients and prospects. You notice that your competitors have more accurate and qualitative image. You're even considering changing your business name. Well, turning to a designer might be the best decision this year because they can advise you on your questions and strategy while offering a unique and coherent visual identity. You'll gain credibility, sustainability, and trust. To get a sense of what a business can do with a designer for its overall communication, I invite you to check out the creation and development of the company Mira, with whom I've been collaborating for several years. Here, the communication strategy was conceived transversely and involved several areas such as name creation, identity development, vehicle branding, space planning, brochure communication, and customer experiences. For a space-related project, the space in your neighborhood is poorly suited for its inhabitants. Your disabled neighbor can't enjoy the space because it's not designed for them. You're boiling in the summer heat because everything is paved. And don't even get me started on the kids. There are no play areas. There's a clear lack of living spaces and you're unsure where to begin. Again, design fits perfectly here. A designer can provide the city with a holistic and human-centered approach based on the lifestyle of his citizens, from children to seniors, from active individuals to those with reduced mobility. This work could easily lead to a collaboration with architects, landscaper, the local governments, and others. The solution will only get better. If this topic interests you, I highly recommend checking out the agency Vraiment Vraiment. We could say in English, really, really, which is well known for its public services. Recently, they were selected to design the new development of Nance Highlands. This project will directly impact the daily use of the area and they will be tasked with designing a new neighborhood that, as they say, should be pleasant, functional, supportive, and welcoming for life. For a product-related project, you came up with an incredible idea when your cousin handed you the turkey at Christmas. For sure, the dish every table will be clamoring for is the one you just imagined. How do you design it and ensure it's well suited for families? Will it truly make their life easier from the kitchen to the table? Does the concept already exist and can it be adapted? Wait, you're also thinking about protecting your creation. Well, a designer will help you through every phase. They can check with you whether the needs you've identified is valid, if it's aligned with the target audience, and will also guide you through the design, development, and protection of your product. As for the packaging, don't worry, they will help you with that. And when it comes to adaptations, they will surely have ideas to offer. Now, you just need to find the right person. In project development, I have plenty of references to share, but since we're talking about food design here, I want to highlight a project that deeply moved me a few years ago. It was by Marie Rudek, a young German product designer who, after the death of her father from cancer, decided to rethink plates for people with illness or reduced mobility. She created the one-hand plate, a flat, non-slip plate with 6 small silicone ridges that help secure food with one hand, allowing you to use the other hand to hold the plate. She also created the one-hand bag, a flat, non-slip plate with 6 small silicone ridges that help secure food with one hand, allowing you to use the other hand to hold the plate. allowing individuals to eat independently. Touching, isn't it? I have another example just for this episode because the person who helped me bring this podcast to life and was the first to listen to it is a renowned product designer based in Toronto, Carter McGeer. He's a true reference in tableware products and accessories with an impressive collection of sketches and 3D printed prototypes. Thank you, Carter, for your precious help. This podcast wouldn't have turned out the same without you. Now I know my French accent sneaks in, but I hope you can still follow me. For a service-related project, you work in a care facility. Since you arrived, you've noted that the internal organization is complicated and doesn't allow patients to be properly taken care of. The functioning of several services and the patient journey need to be rethought to streamline everything. Well, no problem. That's part of designer's job too. They could even create workshops with your teams to mediate solutions and conduct field surveys with patients. You'll be able to test solutions together and refine them to make the patient care process pleasant and more organized. Here, the first examples that come to mind are the projects initiated in many hospitals worldwide. Thanks to a design method called design thinking, hospitals have introduced an entirely new approach for children undergoing medical imaging exams. It's a very stressful time that sometimes leads to tears or even cancellation due to fear. Designers, together with healthcare professionals, have developed creative solutions to transform the children into superheroes from start to finish. This role play, combined with a playful and sensitive atmosphere, significantly reduced stress levels and streamlined the management of exams. Did these examples help clarifying things for you? Let's finish this first phase by clarifying the constraints and resources of your projects. To recognize your limits, it's also crucial to ask yourself the following questions. What is your budget? Do you have a range in mind or a limit you don't want to be exceeded? The clearer you are from the start, the more precise your designer's response will be. This is essential to create a project brief. The cost of a design service can vary based on your requests, the size of your company, and the field. There's a common misconception in the creative industry that creativity increases with the budget. I'm here to tell you it's not true. A good designer will turn your constraints into opportunities. So be transparent and share as much information as possible. You already probably know it, but these meetings are confidential. And depending on your field, you may even sign a confidentiality agreement to reassure you. How much time do you have and when do you want to launch this project? Depending on the field, product, communication, service, the development of a concept can vary widely. Give the designer plenty of time to work on the final solution and, depending on the project, to test it and come back to you for adjustments. Do you already have some resources? Do you have specific software or specialized knowledge? Are there key providers or users in your network who could test your future solutions? Do you have a specific equipment for your concepts? List everything that comes to mind and share it with your designer. They will be able to leverage those resources from the beginning. A designer isn't just here to listen to your needs. They're also there to build a project that perfectly fits within the real world's constraints, time, budget, and material availability. Part 1 of this podcast is over. With this first chapter, You've understood that you can involve a designer from the very beginning of an idea to the development of a service, concept, or existing project. They will rely on your users, your strategy, your resources, and your objectives to deliver a thoughtful and appropriate solution. So let's remember that it is crucial to identify your needs, your resources, and constraints, as well as the person in charge of the project to ensure the ground is fertile enough for a designer. This groundwork will enable them to find the perfect framework and methodology with you. Get ahead, communicate, share, and take the plunge. It's now time to move on to our second step, launching your project with a designer. If, while listening to the podcast, you thought that a designer can work on a wide range of domains, then I've already done a pretty decent job with this episode. That said, don't be mistaken. This doesn't mean that a designer works alone or that just any designer can work with you. As I explained in my first episode, a designer often collaborates with other experts to deliver the final solution. They literally draw upon the skills and requirements of each collaborator to propose a comprehensive, intelligent project that's useful to as many users as possible. As you probably know, there are many types of designers and specializations depending on the field: graphic designers, product designers, service designers, spatial designers, and many more. So let's start with this first point: identifying the right designer or agency. If a project is very specific and doesn't require a lot of resources or multiple providers, the tendency is to work with a freelance designer. Costs are often more advantageous in this case, for this obviously depends on the designer's experience and the field in question. Freelancers also offer more flexibility in terms of scheduling, which can tip the balance in their favor. An agency, on the other hand, delivers more comprehensive solutions with multiple providers and areas of expertise. The problems they address tend to be more complex and time-consuming. Handing your project to different experts within an agency can result in more durable and impactful solutions without the hassles of navigating between different structures. A global design agency ensures that your mission is supported across all aspects: identity, project, retail space, packaging, and that all work remains cohesive. Depending on a company's goals, an agency can save significant time and money. If you now have a project in mind, let's move on the key points to check. First, review their portfolio or book. Look at their past work to see if their results or approach align with your vision. Today, it's easy to find detailed examples on social media, LinkedIn, or designer websites. If it's an agency, you can ask specifically who worked on those projects to choose the professional that suits you the best. Don't hesitate to request this information by email or during your first meeting. Second, ask questions about their background and methodology. To help with your choice, there's nothing better than learning about the designer's education and experiences. A good designer will guide you step by step, ensuring the process remains collaborative. They can also show you how these steps were applied to previous projects, making it easier for you to envision the process. 3. Before seeing, verify the client designer working framework. As you've likely heard before, trust doesn't exclude control, and a contract remains the best way to ensure that the work will be carried out under the right conditions. A contract protects both you and the designer by clearly outlining the terms of the work, deliverables, etc. Well-crafted terms and conditions are real safeguards for both sides. Personally, I've invested in having contracts drafted by a lawyer for peace of mind. I highly recommended entrepreneurs to carefully read these contracts to ensure everything is clear before starting. This term will usually be included with the quote you receive. If anything isn't clear, don't hesitate to ask your contact for clarifications. 4. Ask for recommendations. Other entrepreneurs or businesses in your network might have already worked with talented designers. You can also rely on feedback from other clients through the designer's website, their Google reviews, or LinkedIn profile. As you can see, this second podcast steps encourages you to gather as much information as possible about the projects and working frameworks of the designers or agencies you meet. This approach will allow you to confidently embark on your missions. With these tips, you should be able to find the perfect match. Now, let's move on the third and final step of this podcast. Step 3. Starting your project with your designer. Now that your context and goals are clear and you've chosen the best match, you're officially ready to launch your project. Congratulations! The first step in this exciting journey is the introductory document for your work, the brief. Delivered after an initial meeting with your designer, the brief is a key element that should not be overlooked. This document outlines all your needs, constraints, and objectives. The clearer and more detailed it is, the better your designer will be able to support you. The brief typically includes the following elements. 1. A description of your project and its context. 2. The contact person responsible for the project. 3. Timelines and available budgets. 4. Known requirements and constraints. And 5. Inspiration or references that resonate with you. Pay close attention to this document and don't hesitate to review it with the designer to establish a coherent and precise working foundation. Why is this so important? Simply because the brief will serve as the working basis and contract with your designer. If you omit a critical piece of information or change your mind in mid-project, the designer or agency will likely need to revise the brief, resulting in an additional invoice. So this is the document you'll both rely on to validate the framework of your work. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, designers tend to seek your input throughout the projects. Although each project is unique, I can share some key stages where you will collaborate closely. Design is an iterative process. Be ready to share your feedback, but also to consider new suggestions. The typical work phases include: first, research and analysis. The designer studies your industry and target audience. At this stage, there is an initial meeting to validate this observation and development directions. Second, prototyping and concepts. You receive drafts or mock-ups to approve the creative directions. Third, implementation. Once approved, the solution is brought to life. Here's a concrete example. In a project for a tech startup, a designer would first analyze users' expectations. They will propose mock-ups and test them with your users, make adjustments, and test again until the result is accurate as possible. Finally, they develop the final design in collaboration with the relevant industries. Before wrapping up this section, I wanted to talk about one last point: follow-up and optimization after delivery. Because launching a project is great, but keeping it alive, that's the real challenge. This is a critical factor to consider for both of you, the designer and the company. a good design project doesn't stop at its implementation, so take the time to evaluate its impact. What feedback have you received from your clients or partners? Are the results meeting your expectations? Do you have analytic tools to gather precise data? Are there any adjustments needed? According to the APCI, the French Agency for the Promotion of Industrial Design Creation, 20% of small and medium-sized companies estimate that their return of investment is less than 1 year, and 65% estimate it is less than 3 years. A study by the Danish Design Council supports these figures, showing a 22% increase in revenue for companies that integrate design into their strategy. By collaborating long-term with a designer or a design team, you can continue refining your project. For example, Apple, which regularly reinvents its user experience thanks to a dedicated design team, or Hermes, which continues to captivate us with a multicolored windows displays and narrative decor. Of course, while these giants are well known, similar results can be achieved on smaller, more accessible scales. A lighting creator, for instance, could create a unique concept for the housing sector, develop collections with a designer, and work on their branding and sales spaces over time, all while being supported at every step of their evolution. To conclude, design is a strategic investment. Integrating design into your projects isn't just about aesthetics. It's a way of thinking differently, adding value to your ideas and giving them real impact. Whether you're a small or large company, working with designers can open up unexpected possibilities. And don't hesitate to go further by collaborating with complementary experts, engineers, coaches, psychologists, especially with agencies specializing in global design. This alliance enrich your projects, providing a holistic vision. So, if listening to this podcast has given you more clarity, why not take action? Get started. Work with a designer. Explore the possibilities and make design a strategic lever for your success. This episode is already coming to an end. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Design, Material and Meaning. I hope it has inspired you and made you want to integrate design into your project for 2025. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it with those around you. Leave me a rating or a comment. Every little intention from you is a huge support for this channel, and it's always such a pleasure to hear your feedback. See you very soon for the next episode, where we will explore other aspects of design and its role in our daily lives. In the meantime, take care and stay curious.